My girlfriend asked me to sign temporary family papers for our daughter. I said, okay. Trusted her and almost signed without question, until someone showed me messages proving I was about to lose more than a relationship. I'm 21 mem and I don't even know where to start with this. My girlfriend Madison, 21F, and I have been together for 3 years, and we have a 2-year-old daughter named Allie. We're not married, but we've been living together since Allie was born, and honestly, I thought we were solid. I work as an electrical technician, been doing it since I was 18, and the money's decent. Madison's doing online law classes part-time while taking care of Allie during the day. She's always been focused on having everything stable and proper, which I respect. Here's where things get complicated. I'm really into cars. It's been my thing since I was a kid. I've got 2 cars that belonged to my dad before he died in a work accident when I was 16. A 1995 Mustang GT and a 2003 WRX that we used to work on together. They're not just cars to me, they're like the last connection I have to him. Most of the time I just work on them in the garage or take them to legal track days. But I'll be honest, sometimes I do street racing. Not often, maybe once or twice a month, and always in industrial areas where there's no traffic. I know it's not legal, I know it's risky, but it's something I can't seem to let go of. Madison hates it. She's hated it ever since our friend crashed last summer doing some stupid shit on the highway. Plus, she's always worried about what happens to Allie if something happens to me. She's too young to lose a parent, Madison says, which I get. But here's the thing, I'm careful. I don't drink and drive. I don't race on public roads with other cars around. I'm not trying to be reckless. It's just, when I'm out there, I feel close to my dad again. So 3 days ago, my best friend Jake came over while Madison was at her study group. He looked really uncomfortable and kept checking to make sure she wasn't coming back early. Dude, he said, I need to tell you something, but you're gonna be pissed. Turns out Jake's girlfriend Anna was hanging out with Madison's best friend Chloe last week, and Chloe was showing off text messages between her and Madison. The basic gist was this. Madison is planning to leave me right after New Year's and take Allie with her. According to what Chloe was showing Anna, Madison thinks I'm never going to change, and that I'm going to end up dead like my father, leaving Allie without a dad. The plan is to move back in with her parents, and then get her own place once she figures out custody stuff. I felt like I got punched in the gut. I love Allie more than anything in this world. The idea of not seeing her every day, not being there to read her bedtime stories or make her pancakes on Saturday mornings. I can't even think about it without feeling sick. But here's what's really messing with me. In the past few weeks, I've noticed Madison asking weird questions. Stuff about Allie's birth certificate, about where we keep important documents, about my work schedule. And last week she brought up some paperwork about letting Allie visit her grandmother for a few weeks after New Year's. She wanted me to sign something saying I consented to temporary relocation for family bonding. At the time I thought it was just legal school making her overly formal, but now I'm wondering if it was part of a bigger plan. There's also been this thing with her friend Chloe. Chloe's always been kind of cold to me, but lately she's been making comments like, a good dad knows when to step aside, when we were talking about Allie's preschool options. At the time I thought she meant step aside and let Madison handle educational decisions. But now I'm wondering if she meant something else. I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to confront Madison directly. Part of me wants to just start being a better partner and see if I can change her mind. And part of me is wondering if I should be talking to a lawyer myself, just in case. I love Madison, but I love my daughter too. And I'm not ready to just hand her over without a fight. Should I tell Madison I know what she's planning? Should I try to fix things first? Or should I just quietly start preparing for the worst? Update 1. First, thank you to everyone who commented on my last post. A lot of you told me to stop racing, and honestly, you're right. I've been thinking about it a lot since I posted, and I realized I've been using my dad's memory as an excuse to do something that genuinely scares the person I love. So I'm done with street racing. Completely. I can still do track days legally, but the street stuff ends now. But here's the thing. That might not even matter anymore. So Madison has an iPad that she uses for school, but it's connected to her iCloud account and usually just sits on the kitchen counter. Yesterday she forgot to log out after doing homework, and I noticed she had a bunch of notes open. I know snooping is wrong. I know it, but after what Jake told me, I couldn't help myself. And what I found, I honestly don't know how to process it. There's a note titled Exit Plan, with a detailed list of stuff to do. Not just pack my things and leave stuff, but like, strategic planning. She's been documenting every time I go racing, every time I work late, every time I have a beer with dinner. She's got dates, times, photos of my cars in the driveway after I've been out. She's even got recordings on her phone of me talking about racing with Jake and the other guys. But the worst part is the text thread between her and Chloe. I could see it because she had messages open on the iPad too. Chloe isn't just supporting Madison through a breakup. She's actively coaching her on how to make me look like an unfit father. I'm talking about stuff like, you need evidence of his reckless behavior, and document everything that shows he prioritizes racing over Allie. There's one message from Chloe that made my blood run cold. You need him to seem unstable in front of other people. If he gets angry when you confront him, make sure someone else sees it. And then this one from 2 days ago. My contact at the Family Services office says you need at least 3 documented incidents of endangerment. The racing stuff is good, but you need more. Chloe apparently has a contact who's helping her understand how custody battles work, and she's been sending Madison templates for things like temporary custody petitions and emergency protective orders. There's also a long email thread between them about managing the narrative with our friend group and Madison's family. They've been planning exactly what to tell people about why she's leaving, how to make it sound like she had no choice, but to protect Allie from my dangerous lifestyle. But here's the part that really got to me. Madison wrote to Chloe, if he really loved Allie, he'd quit without me begging him to. Like, I've been trying to balance the things I'm passionate about with being a good father. And apparently that's been seen as proof that I don't love my daughter enough. I read through everything twice to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding. But it's all there. This isn't just Madison being scared and making an escape plan. This is Madison and Chloe actively working to build a case against me that could keep me from seeing my daughter. After I saw all that, I knew I had to act fast. First thing I did was immediately stop any street racing. Like, permanently. I called the guys and told them I'm out for good, even sold my track tires so I wouldn't be tempted. Then I started documenting everything I do with Allie. Every diaper change, every meal I make her, every time we go to the park or I read her a story. I've got a notebook now where I write down everything with timestamps and photos. If Madison wants to make this about who's the better parent, I'm going to be ready. And I quietly called a family law attorney just to understand what my rights are. Didn't file anything or start any legal process, just wanted to know what I'd be dealing with if this gets ugly. The lawyer told me some stuff that made me feel a little better. Fathers have a lot more rights than they used to, especially when they're actively involved in their kid's life from birth. She also said that courts don't like it when one parent tries to relocate with a child without the other parent's consent, especially if it seems like they're trying to limit the other parent's access. But she also told me that if Madison has been building a case about me being dangerous or unstable, I need to be really careful about how I handle this. Any big confrontation, any time I lose my temper, any mistake I make could be used against me later. The thing that's killing me is that I found a text Madison sent to her mom. I'm not trying to hurt Tyler. I just need to protect Allie. I hope he understands someday. Part of me wants to believe that she really thinks she's doing the right thing. But part of me is starting to wonder if Chloe is manipulating her into seeing threats that aren't really there. There's one more thing. I found a weird payment from our joint checking account, $350 to someone I've never heard of. When I tried to look it up, the name led back to some kind of consulting service, but the address was just a P.O. box. Madison's been handling most of our finances lately because I've been working overtime, so I never saw it until now. I haven't confronted Madison yet. I honestly don't know how to bring this up without admitting I snooped, and I'm worried that any conversation we have now is just going to be used as evidence against me later. But I can't keep pretending I don't know what's happening. What would you do? Update 2. This story has taken a turn I never saw coming, and I honestly don't know whether to be relieved or terrified. So after my last update, I decided to trace that $350 payment I found. I did some digging and found out that the consulting service was actually registered under Chloe's real name. She had set up a whole business entity to receive money for family counseling and legal advice services. This got me suspicious, so I started looking at our account more carefully. Turns out there have been 3 payments to Chloe's business over the past 2 months. $350, $275, and $180. That's over $800 that Madison has been sending to her best friend without telling me. At this point, I'm thinking Chloe is just taking advantage of Madison's fears to make some money. Shitty, but not necessarily dangerous. But then last Tuesday, everything went sideways. Madison came home from her study group acting weird. Not upset weird, but like, excited nervous. She kept checking her phone and whispering to Chloe. Around 8 p.m., she suddenly said she was going to take Allie for a walk. Which was weird because it was getting dark, and Allie usually goes to bed at 7:30. When they got back, Madison made a big deal about putting Allie down for the night, and then she came into the living room where I was watching TV. "Tyler," she said, "we need to talk about your priorities." She planted herself right in front of the TV and started going off about how I obviously care more about those cars than my own family, and how she's tired of competing with a hobby for my attention. Now, I haven't been street racing at all since my last update. I've been to the track exactly once in 3 weeks. I've been bending over backwards to show that Allie comes first, but Madison was acting like I'd been out every night abandoning my family. She kept escalating no matter what I said. Then she dropped this bomb. "I'm not going to let you teach our daughter that cars are more important than safety." The way she said it was so rehearsed, like she'd been practicing that line. And that's when I realized what was happening. I looked around and noticed Madison's phone was sitting on the coffee table, screen facing up. She never does that during serious conversations. But it was sitting there like she wanted to make sure it could pick up everything we were saying. And then I heard something that made my stomach drop. A car door closing outside, in our driveway. I looked out the window and saw Chloe's car parked across the street. This whole fight was a setup. Chloe was out there recording or documenting, and Madison was trying to get me to say something angry that they could use later. But I didn't take the bait. Instead, I picked up Allie from her crib and carried her into the living room. "Madison," I said, holding our daughter, "I love this little girl more than anything in the world. I'm making changes because I want to be the father she deserves. But I'm not going to have a fight in front of her, and I'm not going to let anyone manipulate our family." Then I called Jake and asked him to come over as a witness. Madison's whole demeanor changed when Jake showed up. Suddenly she was all calm and reasonable. Chloe never came to the door. After Jake arrived and things calmed down, I finally decided to stop playing games. "Madison," I said, "I know about the exit plan. I know about the legal advice. I know you've been paying Chloe for help with custody planning." She went white as a sheet. We talked for 3 hours after that. Really talked, not the superficial conversations we'd been having for months. Madison admitted that she'd been scared ever since our friend's accident, and that Chloe had been helping her see how serious the situation was. Chloe had told her that most men don't change until they're forced to by consequences, and that waiting for me to change was gambling with Allie's future. But here's the thing. When Madison tried to text Chloe during our conversation, she accidentally sent the message to our friend group chat instead of just to Chloe. The message said, "Tyler and I are talking things through. I think I might have been wrong about some stuff." And Chloe's response, which went to everyone, was, "Don't get soft. If he cries, it means it's working." Madison stared at her phone like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. That's when I knew for sure that Chloe had been playing Madison just as much as she'd been playing me. After Jake left and we put Allie to bed, Madison's phone rang. Unknown number. I answered it. A voice I didn't recognize said, "If you go after Chloe, you'll lose more than a hobby." Then they hung up. Final update. This is probably going to be my last update on this situation, and honestly, I'm just glad it's over. So remember how my last update ended with that weird threatening phone call? Well, that turned out to be the beginning of Chloe's last desperate move, and it backfired in a way I never could have predicted. The week after I posted my second update, Madison seemed really shaken up by realizing how Chloe had been manipulating her. She kept saying stuff like, "I can't believe I almost tore apart our family over this," and "I feel so stupid for not seeing what was happening." But on December 28th, 3 days before Chloe's original timeline for Madison to leave, Madison disappeared. I came home from work, and she was gone. No note, no text, nothing. But Allie was still here, sleeping in her crib like nothing had happened. Madison had left our daughter but taken only her purse and phone. I was freaking out, calling everyone we knew, when Madison finally called me at like 11 p.m. I confronted Chloe, she said, and she sounded like she'd been crying for hours. Turns out Madison had decided to go to Chloe's apartment to demand an explanation for the "don't get soft" text, and to tell Chloe she was done with the whole exit plan. But when she got there, she discovered something that changed everything. Chloe wasn't just manipulating Madison. She was running the same con on 2 other women at the same time. Madison found printouts and notes about legal strategy sessions, with a Anna whose boyfriend gambles too much, and a Jessica whose husband works dangerous construction jobs. Same exact playbook. Document everything, build a case, create evidence of instability, charge consultation fees for every step of the process. But the really hit-up part was that Chloe had been using details from Madison's situation to coach the other women. Like, she'd taken things Madison had told her in confidence about our relationship and our finances, and used them as examples of red flags for Anna and Jessica to watch out for. Madison also found emails between Chloe and someone claiming to be a family court advocate, who was offering to help create fake documentation of domestic disputes for $500 per case. When Madison confronted Chloe about it, Chloe tried to convince her that she was helping women escape dangerous situations, and that the fees were just to cover her time and expertise. But then Madison asked to see proof of Chloe's qualifications to give legal advice, and Chloe couldn't provide any. That's when Chloe finally dropped the act and told Madison that if she didn't follow through with the original plan, Chloe would make sure Tyler never sees Allie again, by filing false reports about abuse and drug use. Madison came home that night scared as hell, but also finally understanding the full scope of what had been happening. "She was never trying to help me," Madison said. "She was using my fears about losing you to make money and manipulate me into doing something I didn't actually want to do." We stayed up all night talking about everything. The racing, the secrecy, the manipulation, all of it. Madison admitted that she'd never actually wanted to leave me. She just got convinced that she had to in order to be a good mother. And I admitted that I'd been so focused on defending my right to race that I'd never really listened to how scared she was. We decided to take everything we'd found about Chloe to Jake, since Jake's girlfriend Anna was one of Chloe's other targets. Jake was furious. He'd been wondering why Anna had been asking weird questions about his poker nights with the guys and why she'd suddenly wanted him to sign some papers about respecting her boundaries. Turns out Chloe had been coaching Anna to document Jake's gambling addiction and prepare for a breakup Anna didn't even want. Jake confronted Chloe directly and got her to admit that she'd been charging multiple women for the same fake legal advice. He also found out that Chloe owed about $8,000 in credit card debt and had been using the consultation fees to make minimum payments. The fake family court advocate turned out to be Chloe's cousin who had gotten in trouble for practicing law without a license in another state. Once word got out about what Chloe had been doing, 3 more women came forward saying she'd tried to run similar scams on them. One of them had actually paid Chloe almost $1,500 for emergency legal services that never happened. As for consequences, Chloe got cut off from our entire friend group. Anna dumped her as a friend and demanded her money back. 2 of the other women she'd scammed are talking to real lawyers about getting their money back and possibly filing fraud charges. The most satisfying part was that Chloe's whole thing was based on her reputation as someone who looks out for women and gives good advice. Once everyone found out she'd been manipulating vulnerable women for money, she lost the only thing that gave her power over people. She tried to do damage control by claiming that Madison and I were attacking her for helping women escape abuse, but nobody bought it once they saw the evidence. Now for the part about Madison and me. We're doing couples therapy, and it's helping a lot. We're learning how to talk about fears and concerns without letting other people influence our relationship. Madison's also doing individual therapy to work through why she was so susceptible to Chloe's manipulation in the first place. As for the racing, I meant it when I said I was done with street racing. I sold my dad's WRX to a collector who's going to restore it properly, and I'm using that money to take some advanced technical courses for work. I kept the Mustang, but only for legal track days, and only when Madison and Allie are doing their own thing. The weird part is that letting go of the street racing actually made me feel closer to my dad's memory, not farther from it. Like, he would have wanted me to prioritize my family over anything else, including the cars he left me. Madison and I had a long talk about what my dad would have thought about all this. And she said something that really stuck with me. I wasn't trying to take away your connection to him. I was trying to make sure Allie doesn't lose her connection to you. We're not engaged or anything dramatic like that, but we're committed to building a healthier relationship and being better co-parents. Madison's back in her law classes and actually wants to specialize in family law now, partly because of what we went through. The threatening phone call from that unknown number never got explained, but it stopped after Chloe got exposed. I'm guessing it was either Chloe herself or the cousin trying to scare me into backing off. Last thing, a few days ago, I found a text Madison had written but never sent, probably from back when she was planning to leave. It said, "I'm not trying to take Allie from you. I'm trying to save her from watching you die." That hit me hard because it made me realize that this whole thing was never about Madison being vindictive or wanting to hurt me. She genuinely thought she was protecting our daughter from going through what I went through when my dad died. The real tragedy is that Chloe took that fear, which was based on love, and twisted it into something that almost destroyed our family. But we made it through, and I think we're stronger now than we were before. Allie's got both her parents, Madison's got her dreams back on track, and I've got clarity about what really matters. Thanks for all the support, Reddit. This community helped me keep perspective when everything felt crazy.